welcome, Colin.
Hi, Frank. Hello, everyone.
Great to see you. And as I've mentioned, we've seen that great announcement in terms of the investment from L&G Bruntwood, the Science Tech initiative. Tell us a little bit more about that, mate.
Well, in a typically Liverpool way, we've done something unique and something that's never been done before. So if anything's going to lift our city and the region out of the economic situation we all find ourselves in, it's the invention in Liverpool, isn't it? And the innovation and the creativity of the people. And so Science Tech's a unique deal. I think it's the first time anywhere in the country that City Council, two world leading universities have created a company, done a share issue. It was an FCA regulated transaction and brought in a significant initial amount of I've just got a message from Tony Reeves. I'm being heckled. That's the beauty of the internet. So it's kind of the first. If I just go back to that point, it's not been done before, but it's a financial investment in the company that we've created with the city and the universities. So somebody's not come in and bought our buildings or bought our assets or taken anything over. This is one of the world's leading funds, Legal and General, their future cities team, and Bruntwood, who are now the biggest owners and operators of science and technology parks in the UK, coming together and putting money into Liverpool. I think that's a huge show of faith in the city and what we're all involved in and what we're all doing. I don't think it's been done before. It's only the start. It's a significant initial investment, but it brings us experience and expertise and the ability to bring forward development at a pace. And if you're an occupier now, a big media company, digital company, life sciences or pharma company, you're going to take note of that investment and you're going to think of the brilliant talent, the graduates, the people we've got in Liverpool, the cultural offer, the waterfront. And, I think why wouldn't you put your business here now that, that faith has been shown in the city? Mm-hmm. So I think the timing is really, really important. I think that the timing is more important than the amount of money. It's a significant investment, but to do it now, I think gives us all faith and optimism for the future.
Yeah, it is that vote of confidence, I think, Colin, isn't it, that's vitally important at this moment in time. But in terms of acting as a catalyst for the Knowledge Quarter location, I know there's lots of things happening already, but what will this investment, do you think, begin to generate in terms of development and potential other interests as well?
I think the first thing to say is the impact of this will benefit the whole city. So, whilst my day job for the last few years has been that half the city that's the Knowledge Quarter, this is good for all of Liverpool. And that vote of confidence in our schemes means that I would like to think that things like the new cultural project for the waterfront, further works on the waterfront itself, schemes like Pall Mall will all be able to gather confidence and accelerate at a pace because of this deal. So I think it will benefit the whole city. In the Knowledge Quarter, Paddington Village, thanks to Morgan Sindel, I can see Sue there. Paddington Village, massive success, absolutely. Nobody thought that derelict site could become what it now is in just 3 or 4 years. And, I posted on Twitter the other day that image as you come down Edge Lane and you see the spine now looking amazing and the hotel core next to it. That's just the start. That's Paddington Central. So with this money, working with the City Council, we can bring forward Paddington North, which is likely, we've got a project name there called The Hill, and we can bring forward Paddington South at a pace. Also the work that Claire Slinger and the council have done on Upper Central. LJMU have got a great scheme underway there. That whole area around Copper's Hill and Mount Pleasant will join the Knowledge Quarter, the universities to the retail district. There can't be many cities of our size and our growth potential that have a huge site right next to the main train line into London. So I think the value of Upper Central is going to become very clear as we take that forward. And there are many, many other schemes as well, but I bore you all to death talking about that, and it's sunny outside. I'm just very excited about it. It's really, Joe Anderson started this, and I think he must take a lot of credit for creating that city mayoral development zone, having faith, which the universities have backed 100%, attracting the investor, and the support of the combined authority as well in Paddington Village. It's been a real team effort.
You mentioned the fact that this development will be something that's of importance to the city. I think you and I, Colin, have spoken in the past, and I touched on this with Tony Reeves yesterday, actually, about the fact that that part of the city still seems a little bit disconnected from the rest of the city centre. And so, one of the things that I've been pressing Frank Rogers and colleagues at the Combined Authority to look at is a more strategic approach to the transport links to that part of Liverpool, because if we're seeing big developments, big investment there, then equally it does need to be seen as somewhere that is accessible. So again, as I say, I don't really want to break any confidences. I know you were having some conversations in terms of trying to get that connectivity improved. Have we made any progress with that?
Yeah, we've been talking to Councillor Liam Robinson, who chairs Mersey Travel, had further discussions with the city, and we think we've got a really strong argument for a last mile transport connection to go from Paddington, where we're building a big new multi-storey car park, but on the edge of the city centre, which means that people can then get that trackless tram from Paddington into the city, and also from Lime Street and Central up to Paddington Village and the new hospitals. We've had a lot of support in the meeting. There's a lot of discussions ongoing. It's another game changer, isn't it? It's Liverpool ripping up the rule book, challenging the norm, doing something different. It's bold that we should go down a last mile transport solution, different to other cities. But I think that's what we're about. So we should seize the opportunity and do it. And it's funny, really, isn't it? For all the terrible things that are happening, and the whole human tragedy of the pandemic and the economic consequences, we've all seen one really big difference, haven't we? Which is the environment. Isn't it amazing being outdoors and the return of nature and the quality of the light and and our cities are better for not being polluted by cars and trucks and vans, and we should remember this moment and really invest in those green transport solutions and proper pedestrian routes and proper cycle paths, and let's not return to what there was before. There's some really important learnings. One of the things I love most is the invention of everybody involved in a social enterprise, and the amount of work that went on in places like the Fabric District to creating, building, making PPE. Social enterprises have kept this city going, and we should concentrate on that kind of innovation and the environment, and not go back to the old ways when this ends.
Just a final point, Colin, before I bring other people into the conversation. And the other thing I should have said at the outset is I'm interested to hear this afternoon people's views on where the property construction sector is and your experiences of the lockdown thus far and how you're hoping to see things develop. But as I say, one final point, Colin. You're a brilliant marketeer. And, one of the many things that I've admired about you over the years, and that you're an ideas guy, that you come up with practical solutions, sometimes very simple, but the simple ideas are often the best. Liverpool, I think, has gone through a tortuous process over a decade or more now, trying to come up with that magic strapline or that silver bullet or that marketing strategy that's going to say to the world, this is what we're about. And you and I have both spent many hours and too many hours in rooms discussing this. I think that, the positivity that Joe, Tony, Steve Rotherham, and then the news of this investment brings means that we should be very ambitious and aspirational about that message. And again, we're right in the middle of creating something in terms of our marketing collateral. Just give us your thoughts on what that marketing collateral, what that message might look like going forward.
Well, as you know, work is going on now behind the scenes to get the Liverpool brand right, and Julia Bradley is chairing that brand group, and work is going on with agencies to take that forward. Now, I've always seen Liverpool. It's the reason I'm here. You know, I was born in Merseyside, but as you know, a lot of my working life has been Manchester, and I'm here because I think Liverpool is a city of opportunity, and I think we should really focus on that. You know, the opportunity to create where we are world leaders, the innovation, the creativity, the invention. I think we'll come out of this economic situation far quicker than most cities. We're not overly dependent on large firms or nowadays the public sector. A lot of our economy is driven by all the people on this call, you know, people who work for small and medium-sized businesses, people who are doing startups and spin-outs, and that's our greatest strength, I think. So I think it's a combination of opportunity and creativity. And if I told you any more, Frank, I'd be revealing things which I'm sure will come out very soon. But I think I love something that Michael Parkinson says. You know, I'm a huge fan of Professor Michael Parkinson. You know, I think that man is a genius, and you know, those people are the change makers that make an ordinary city an amazing city. And Michael talks about something where he says, you know, if you look at what Liverpool's been good at, and it's been a city regenerated through culture, tourism, the waterfront, and now increasingly our knowledge economy, our knowledge intensive economy. If we were good at that going into this pandemic, then why change now? Let's stick to what we're good at and focus on what we're good at and use that to drive our economy forward. Now, I love that idea that if you're good at something, don't give up, don't be distracted from that. If you're good at it going in, you'll be good at it coming out. What will make a difference?
Cool. If anyone, by the way, wants to make a comment, ask a question of Colin as he's speaking, there is a facility on your screen to, there's a chat room. So if you sort of just type your name that you want to ask a question, I'll call you in. But at this point, I wanted to ask Steve Cowperthwaite to comment on the news of that investment, because of course, Stephen, had things gone to plan, we'd have been in Cannes a few weeks ago, and we'd have been talking about the potential of those investments into the Knowledge Quarter, and we'd have been looking ahead in terms of what the huge marketing piece for Liverpool was going to look like. And I know you as well, from Avison Young's perspective, have been working on trying to bring people into the city. So what's your mood at the moment, Stephen? And again, your reaction to the news that we've got that investment into the Knowledge Quarter?
I mean, it's absolutely fantastic news, Frank, and I think to get that deal over the line at this time, and I think, you know, I'd echo what Colin has said, that it really reinforces you know, the attributes of the city and the potential that the city has. So, I mean, I've had conversations with Legal in General for going back the last 3 or 4 years. That came out of MIPIM. Yeah, it's probably about 4 years now. So, for them to have a foothold and are not, you know, in the city is brilliant. I think what's really interesting, and obviously how we market ourselves at MIPIM is hugely important. What are the opportunities? So we were approached last week by Property Week, who were picking up on the whole life sciences piece. And one thing that this crisis has done is put Liverpool firmly on the map in terms of the research and the capabilities in the life sciences and health sector. I've got a good friend of mine who's a professor at School of Tropical Medicine, who's become a bit of a media star, to be honest with you, over the last few weeks. He's been on, you know, Breakfast Time, Question Time, and everything else, the One Show. But what it does demonstrate is that it's amazing how many people still don't know the fantastic institutions that we have in the city centre, and the more that we can capitalise on that, the better. And what this investment does by Bruntwood SciTech into Scientech is reinforce that message that we do have these fantastic institutions to work with. And I think, as again, touching upon what Colin says, and I've been on Twitter this morning saying the same sort of thing with a bit of a to and fro, is that it's, yes, getting some big name companies into the city will be great, and that's plainly part of the journey, but we have to tap into those innovators and entrepreneurs and startup businesses and the fantastic research that's already taken place in the city, and create an environment where they can grow and be the next businesses that occupy the fantastic spaces that we're going to create in Knowledge Quarter. And then from a wider perspective, that's just part of the whole thing of what Liverpool is about. When you add in, the cultural offer and the other opportunities around the waterfront and Pall Mall, etc., Upper Central, I totally agree with Colin. We're in a fantastic position as a city. I get a sense from speaking to my fellow managing directors around the country of other offices, and I think we are ahead of the curve in terms of how we are looking to, from a recovery perspective, and to bounce back. So I think everybody keep up the good work and keep spreading the message, and we'll come out of this stronger and better, I think.
Just pick up on that last point, if I may, Stephen, in terms of the conversations you're having with your colleagues, because Avison Young, of course, an international company, so you will be aware of things that are happening in global cities. And like you, I'm sensing that Liverpool, we've often been criticised for not perhaps reacting as quickly as we need to in times of economic change. But I'm sensing, like you, that actually this time round we're a bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the key to me, and it's the same, it's kind of the same in the MIPIM context, Frank, is that we're focusing upon what we're good at, as opposed to honing the conversation and the ask, going forward around what makes a difference, job creation, the skills pool that we've got, etc., as opposed to trying to cover every single base. So it ties back into that brand conversation as to what we are, what's unique about us, what are our key differentiators compared to other cities. And absolutely, it feels like we're in a really, really good place to be able to come out of this ahead of the curve, ahead of our competitors, hopefully, in terms of and I say competitors in terms of other cities in the UK and globally.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Sue Patterson, I'm going to bring you into the conversation, and you were mentioned in dispatches there by Colin in terms of the work that Morgan Sindel have done and Paddington Village. So again, it must have been music to your ears when that news came through of this investment.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant for the city. It gives a lot of confidence for everyone, I think, moving forward, to hear deals like that still going through at this time. And I think that's what we need right now. Is we all need that confidence to know that we can continue moving forward. I think we're past the stage of reaction now, and we're in recovery stage of looking ahead. And I think the important thing is moving forward that those opportunities are there for us, because construction it's a major contributor to the economy. It's a major contributor to the local region, and we can only do what we do for the local community if we've got jobs on site and future jobs to go to. So this is fantastic news. Yeah.
So I know one of the key priorities and focuses for you guys in terms of that site and the development has been offering young people in the city opportunities, so through apprenticeships and work experience and that sort of thing. I'm just wondering how the crisis is going to impact on that. I was talking to Elaine Bowker on a call a few days ago, who's really worried actually about their apprenticeship programme and there just being enough work out there for the people who are going through the college. What are you sensing as far as that's concerned?
I think, well, at the moment, it's difficult right now to be continuing with anything because health and safety has to come first. We've had a lot to get our heads around, and we're working closely with the Construction Leadership Council on getting all that into place. But moving forward, I'd say the priority is, and it's been said before, let's crack on, let's get on with it. And if we've got jobs on site, then those opportunities are there. So the key thing is we've got to get, there's a lot of projects that are probably in design stage. Moving forward, the key thing is getting them procured and getting them to site. And then we can carry on feeding the local economy with the apprenticeship programs and the experience for the students. And that's something that, you know, we don't want to stop that. It's really, really important part of what we do.
Thanks, Sue. Part of the conversation yesterday as well, and again, Colin touched on this in terms of the new agendas that are emerging and probably accelerating around green agenda, environment. Tony Reeves was saying that, you know, modular housing is going to be something that becomes increasingly important, as house building is still a priority, but nonetheless those issues around modular become more to the fore. And Ian and Lisa are on the call at the moment. I just wonder whether, you know, you picked that up as an opportunity, Ian, and basically how Shaper are looking to take advantage of those new opportunities potentially.
Yes, first I want to comment on the haircuts, Frank. I noticed yours are getting a little bit long, Collins and David Kane's, then you look at Tony McDonald and nothing's changed.
I got some stick over my Barner from bloody Steve the other day.
My face is starting to come through.
One benefit of being bald. I've already been ripped for me wallpaper by Caney as well, so.
I was about to say,
it's the baby's whole room, so I need to get it wallpapered.
Yeah. Just to go back to your question, Frank, there's a real opportunity for us now, especially in the modular modular world, because we still need to bring forward the houses, and with the time benefits with the modular being one of the main advantages, it's a great opportunity for us. Again, we're still getting a little bit of conflict, so to speak, where we're still trying to convert people into modular and the benefits of it. People are stuck in the ways, and you know, they're all for traditional build effectively, but as we keep saying, we're only here to complement it. We're here to bring houses forward. Our new range of houses, which, you know, we've got the net zero homes and the benefits of you know, them being very efficient effectively is right on the agenda at the moment. So our factory, which is in Kuala Lumpur, closed down on the 18th of March, and we went back into the factory on Monday. We're still sticking to the social distancing, so we've ditched the high fives and we're sticking to the 6 foot rule. So we changed our shift pattern, so we've got more people in the factory. We're providing them with ready-made meals throughout the day and so on and so forth, and people who are affected, the families who are affected, we're supporting them. Allowing us to open the factory is fantastic. We've just finishing off a project for a hotel chain. In terms of confidence, we were awarded a hotel in Southend-on-Sea, which is the largest airspace project in the UK. So it's 3 stories on top of a 10-story existing building, and the hospitality sector obviously is affected at the moment, but we've had the green light and we're still cracking forward with that at the moment. So that's a good one for us, and that'll be going through the factory within the next couple of weeks. And then again, we're looking at a couple of sites at the moment with a couple of housing associations across the Northwest to still continue to bring the modular homes forward.
Excellent, really positive, really positive. Now, I mentioned that we wanted to get into the health and safety issue and a potential return to work. And before I bring Max and Alan in. If Alan's still with us, he's disappeared from my screen, but I think he is still with us on the call somewhere. I just wanted to ask David, you know, we had long and tortuous conversations in the first couple of weeks of the lockdown. And I think this is an important point to make, because I think sometimes people forget, you know, as business owners, we've all got family, we've got friends, we care about the people that are around us, we care about our communities. And this idea that businesses, you know, will send people out willy-nilly into dangerous health-affecting incidents and situations, it does, to use the technical phrase, piss me off a little bit. And property does seem, construction seems to be a bit of an easy target. So in those early days, you know, you were on the phone to me on a daily basis, genuinely saying to me, I just don't know what to do. You've got the pressures of your workforce, many of whom are self-employed and still won't be seeing any real help coming from the Chancellor's announcements. As good as I think the Chancellor's business support packages have been, there's still a big chunk of the UK workforce being missed out, and often they're related to the construction industry. But then on the other side, you had, as I say, this criticism of health and safety measures and just allowing people to continue to work. I think that dissipated as the weeks went by. But where are you at the moment? We're across field at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's better now than it was, if you like. I think the early stages, there was a real mix between some of your contractors shutting down completely, if you like, and some of them trying to remain open. We, luckily, working with Max and Alan, managed to keep the majority of our sites open on the early stages, although at a lot less capacity than what we'd have liked at the time, if you like. So we managed to keep them open. But the drive for me, like I say, Frank, me and you spoke a few times, was it wasn't really productive for me to stay open, if I'm honest with you. So it wasn't a money-driven thing. I was probably less productive being on site. It was probably costing me money. But the pressures I had was the smaller supply chain members basically saying to me, Dave, if you shut, I've got no money coming in.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we're going to really struggle at that point. So the difficulty was trying to get that right balance between, you know, keeping the sites moving if we can, and, you know, supporting the supply chain and making sure they can earn some money while the government sorted out what they were doing in terms of, you know, the support, and maintaining health and safety rules. So I'd like to say, Alan, I know you're coming on to, but Alan and Max were a great help, to be fair. I had a long chat with Alan, and obviously Max worked with the team, and we come up with some really innovative solutions really to keep the sites going. I think the biggest problem we had was suppliers towards the end. I think that's what sort of brought our sites to a halt, if you like, rather than the health and safety factor at the end, because we put systems in place, but the manufacturers stopped, so you ran out of materials. But you have seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they're all opening again.
Yeah.
If you know, like Total Glass opened last week, you've got Pars opened a couple of weeks ago, so your big suppliers are starting to open again, and I think we're probably running around 70% capacity at the moment. I think the difficulty we'll have is, if you get back up to 100, can you maintain the social distancing? So we're sort of working out programs now for all the live projects. I think about 10 or 12 projects in the Northwest at a 70% capacity. What does that do to your programs, if you like? Because I don't think we're capable of going back to 100%. I don't think you can maintain the new health and safety rules of that. The problem we've got with that is going to be the knock-on of the additional time on the contracts, if you like. And I think, although we're not at risk for LADs, you have got the prelim overrun. So all in, I think, although we're not feeling it right at the minute, towards the end of the jobs, when the jobs are going over 6-7 weeks as a result of COVID, that's when the financial pinch will come a little bit on some of the projects. So I think we're a way off from that yet, but just being aware of it.
Okay. Thanks, David. We've got a comment from Peter. Peter Cummins from Kia, who we can't see, but we can hear if he puts his mute button off. Peter, nice to see you, or almost see you.
Nice to see you, Frank, and everybody else. Yeah, I suppose I was just going back to the Liverpool brand. And Liverpool blows its own trumpet loud and often, and rightly so. But I was just thinking, wouldn't it be really powerful if L&G and Bruntwood, two of the leading investors, came out and publicly said why they'd made the investment in Liverpool as opposed to anywhere else? I think it would be so powerful. it'd be an endorsement on Liverpool. And actually, I think with them being external, it would have a greater effect on any other potential investors, as opposed to people inside Liverpool, you know, saying why Liverpool's so good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, well made, Peter. I'll just bring Colin back into the conversation, if I may. It is always better when other people say how good you are rather than us telling everyone how great we are. I've never found it a problem on a personal level telling people how great I am. That's an entirely different story. Yeah, I know we've got Chris Oglesby doing an event with us next week, and I know, you know, Chris is very complimentary about Liverpool and the way in which the city is perceived now from where it was 10, 15 years ago. But I don't think we're going to have an issue getting those guys to shout long and loud about the potential and opportunity in this place, are we, Col?
No, you know, we're really lucky. You look at Chris is a brilliant person to work with, and I'm sure Brum would have been a big investor in Liverpool for a long time. People forget that, you know, they've owned 11 buildings in the city. So one of Liverpool's biggest office buildings, the Plaza, is Brumwood. So they know Liverpool really well. Of course, Peter's got a good point, and both Bruntwood and Legal & General were quoted in the press release. You will see them more and more involved. And I know, Frank, you had a brilliant interview with Tony Reeves. And Tony talked about Project Greyhound, the economic recovery plan for the city. Without, you know, breaking any confidences, there are lots of people who are feeding into that process, you know, and I think it's really important. It's something that I know Tony wants, that big business, big investors, the funds, the developers, that they get behind that process. So it's a really good point. You know, we need businesses to support us. We've all seen how Sir Howard did it over many years in Manchester and worked very hard with Mike Ingalls, David Partridge's, Chris Oglesby's. We need those voices supporting us as well. I think we're on the way to doing it. Yeah. You know, you've got people like you and me, Frank, in the midfield. You know, we're the kind of Jordan Henderson, James Milners, and then you've got our attackers, the City Mayor, the Metro Mayor, Tony Reeves. They're all up front, and you know, that's how it's got to be. And we need to get as many of those key business players into our front line. Yeah.
I'll be Andrea Gomez in that particular analogy, if you don't mind, mate. Okay, now, hey, not only dirty Reds, but bloody ugly dirty Reds as well. I'm being compared to either of them two. Right, we'll leave that one. We'll leave that one there.
Although, just to say, that point of Peter's is vital to the brand. So, you know, whoever we all know in the city, not just in property and development, but in industry and commerce, let's, you know, use all of those people and get the help of them. And we did get massive help from, you know, from both the chief execs of Liverpool and Everton football clubs in those earlier stages of the brand work. And it's really important that we bring them in again as we take it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, before I bring Alan and Max in, as I say, I want to talk about what the new health and safety regs might look like. Again, some of the conversations that I've been party to, suggesting that the 2 metre rule may be relaxed to 1.5 metres, and that makes a massive difference on site. It also makes a huge difference when the hospitality sector gets back into operation to those guys as well. So as I say, Alan, Max, get ready to come in and give us your thoughts on what may be around the corner. But just wanted to bring Sean in from Sutcliffe's, because I know you guys have still been operating some sites as well and are looking ahead to potential opportunities in the future. So, Sean, I'm not sure whether Billy's still with us, but Sean, do you want to just give us a review, a preview, if you like, of what it's looking like for you guys at the moment? Your mute button's still on, Sean. Sean, your mute's still on.
Sorry about that. I was looking at Teams and trying to open the Teams up. So, we've got a number of sites that are up and running. A couple of them with Max. We found that construction sites, Stephen, talking to different contractors, probably about 60% of them are still managing to carry on working. A couple of them are local ones, so the Royal is, and down at the Knowledge Quarter. So we've managed to keep on working out on the sites. In the office, we're still not back in the office. We're desperate to get back to the office. So certain groups of the older people are desperate to get back. And we're hoping that we're allowed to come back, because we do think that there's a certain element of the work that we do is just better closer together. There's certain elements of it that we are working as a team. But we find that the professional services side of the industry has probably been reasonably buoyant over the last couple of months relative to other sectors. But what's going to happen is eventually the on-site construction work is going to slow down. So it's really important that the contractors, the Kiers, the Morgan Sindles are back on site, and they're using the resource to make sure that the construction work is continuing.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Alan, who's obviously in his spare time starting to form a tribute band to ZZ Top, and Max, welcome. You and I had a chat the other day, guys, about some of the work that you've been involved in, and obviously your services have never been more sought after in a sense, and you're working right across the country. I don't know which one of you wishes to go first. But just tell us about some of the things that you're looking at in terms of new innovations as we move into this new world post-lockdown.
Do you want to go first, Al, or do you want me to take it?
Go on, I'll let you go first. I've moved from the kitchen, from the middle child's room into the car, so I'll let you crack on, although I'm set up now. So.
So as Frank and obviously David said, it came as a bit of a shock to us first, obviously, and we mentioned that a lot of contractors did take that knee-jerk reaction and stop sites. I'd say we probably had at one point as low as 40% of sites operating, and they were the big, wide-open space sites that you had, so your big new builds, all that sort of thing. So we did have to take stock on a lot of projects, and working alongside Crossfield, that was a key thing that we'd done. So we had to sit down with the supply chain, and we wanted to make a site that you wanted to come to site, because there was a point in a period where there was a lot of press saying that workers were only going to projects because they wanted to earn money. We wanted to build sites and work with contractors and clients to make it an area where you wanted to visit. So there was suitable social distancing. There was a place where you could go for your lunch while sitting there within 2 meter distances of people, and it was operating safely. I think the key point is that there's a new normal now, and the new normal is that you can only really get 60 to 70% of the people on site safely. So one thing we're looking at now with contractors, I mean, we're working alongside Morgan Sindle on Wirral Waters from a pre-construction point of view. We're working alongside Kier on a new hospital in North Wales, and the big thing is what is the new normal? So that is, you need a lot more welfare space on site. So that's cabins and, areas to have your break if you want to get 100% of numbers on site. And with 100% of numbers, it is really tough to keep that 2 meter social distancing. So, the new normal may be a case that you look to your shapes for your modular construction, because anything off site where you've got the ability to control your product, bring it to site and construct it on site is a lot better. So we're actually sitting there with design teams now also away from contractors to say, what can we do off site? How can we minimize the dense nature of a construction site that, as always, is to work on this new normal? So we've gone from a position now where we've worked alongside Crossfield to get best practice measures on site, whether it's one-way routes with stairs going up, stairs going down to keep people away from each other, staggered breaks and supporting people, to now looking at what is the future for the next 6 to 12 months. I mean, my thoughts on it, I believe this contact tracing app could be huge for construction sites, because if you've got 100% buy-in on your site and who's came into contact with a potential person who's got symptoms, then you can minimize the risks of your construction site. So a big thing we're pushing to contractors is, you know, let's get the knowledge out there to the guys on site. Let's offer them the advice with regards to testing, so we can keep running efficiently. But it's definitely changing day by day. I mean, David will vouch for it. We've got weekly calls with all of his sites now, as a group call, which have worked really well. So it's constantly evolving, and we're just tackling it week by week, to be honest.
I think that's where Max has been heavily involved on the practical side, and I think the high level points, and we're trying to maintain positivity and promote positivity here, is that with the buy-in and the engagement from the supply chain, from Crossfield and their suppliers has been like something, what we could have only dreamed of previously. Real buy-in to the measures that we're putting into place. So, I think what we need to do is take this forward, from a health and safety and CDM point of view, and roll that out going forward, because the buy-in has just been phenomenal. We've been blown away by it, to be honest. And I think that's, CDM, health and safety, is that sort of taboo subject, mainly because it's, we've seen it done as a box ticking exercise over the years. So I think the positives to take away is the buy-in that we've had from the supply chain. I think that, we operate across all different stages of construction. We're retained by architects, clients, through to contractors and even subcontractors. So I think part of our sort of mission task, if you like, is to get everyone up to that same speed, because we're, and thankfully no one's on this call that I'm talking about, but there's some, big outfits out there that we're dealing with who are still not up to speed, and they're still got burying their head in the sand and not really seeing there's a problem. So, yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating, even just the last 2 weeks. I've been fortunate enough to, up until this week, I've tried to spend a bit more time at home. I've been getting into the office, so that's been a bit easier for me. And yeah, it's been interesting, as I'm sure it has for all.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Max.
Just on that, the buy-in, I think you're right on that, mate. I think it was twofold really on the subby buy-in. I think firstly there was a general fear of COVID, if you like. So I think a lot of supply chain bought into it out of fear. But I think secondly, the stuff we put out in with Max and Amy said, this is the only way we keep the sites open. So you adhere to the rules, or the sites have to close, basically, really. So it was sort of sold to them that way. So, like you say, I think working closely with our PMs, we have seen good buy-in from the supply chain, which if they didn't follow the rules and the policy we put in place, we would have had to shut the site, and it stops the earning, if you like. So I think, as you say, buy-in's been huge, hasn't it? I think they're the two main drivers for it, really.
Anyone else got any questions or points for Alan and Max, or just drawing on your own experiences of the people that you're probably in contact with, and your thoughts on as we come out of the lockdown? Sean?
And can I jump in? We've carried a poll in the office about returning back to the office, and one thing I was actually surprised at, there's a genuine nervousness, following up, I think what David said, there's a genuine nervousness about coming back to the office. Even though social distance possible and cleaning and all those procedures, I think there's a psychological thing that a lot of people feel a little bit battered about it. So I think there's a little bit of soft, warm, cuddly stuff required.
Yeah, I think that's certainly being picked up, isn't it, by people across various industry sectors. And I think equally, if we go back to a sector that all of us work with at some point, the hospitality sector, they're the guys who were first into this, and they're probably going to be last out. And they're, if you look at Liverpool, Colin was able to list a whole range of industry sectors which we can see some positivity coming out of in the future months and years. But we're all equally aware of the fact that the visitor economy has been a massive driver of Liverpool's economy over the last 10 years. And therefore, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to lobby and talk to whoever we need to make sure that that sector is supported and looked after as much as possible as well. And as I say, listen, from a construction perspective, it's you guys who build the hotels, who do the refurbs of the restaurants and the bars, so crucially important at so many levels there. There's a couple of people who haven't spoken yet, and I don't want to cut the conversation short if there's people who are desperate to make points. And as I say, listen, you got two of the best in the business in Alan and Max as far as health and safety is concerned. So I'd use the free consultation now if you can. And if you've got any questions, just indicate, just wave to me or put it on the screen. Anybody else wanting to say anything? Doesn't have to be about health and safety. Michael's in the room. I know that architects are having an interesting time at the moment. Michael, do you just want to come into the discussion?
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting hearing that. I mean, I think we're very positive about coming out of the this enforced lockdown and remote working. I think these sort of events, shall we say, whether it's a severe recession or the thing that we're experiencing now, they do drive creativity and innovation, and they bring it forward very much faster. So I think it's interesting picking up on that you're seeing good examples there of how there's a different approach and different mindset to some issues around health and safety, which I think will become embedded and drive a different and more positive attitude, as has been said. But also, I think again, the more fleet of foot, the more nimble, the small and medium-sized enterprises, whether they be contractors or in the service industry, can pick those up much more quickly than some of the bigger organisations that I think Alan was talking about, being much more difficult to see the need to adapt, and not just the need to adapt, but the opportunity that presents. Being fortunately, we've been in a reasonably good position in that not a lot of our workload has been impacted to date, we, as I say, I think we're very positive about the bounce that's going to come from getting back to work, and I think probably generally in society a need, a reinforced sense of togetherness and purpose to do really positive things. So that sort of positivity, I think, will be evident.
Thanks, Michael. Is there anybody else before I start to wrap the conversation up who's desperate to make a contribution? Colin?
I just say, well, just during this whole period, Liverpool Science Park has stayed open. It's kind of been weird going in there into a nearly empty building. It's had to stay open because we've got university labs working, as part of the whole government virus task force. So we've had to stay open, and some businesses, people in that building have been going in and working because we've made the space available. I think where the challenge is, and picking up on what Michael and others have said, is the challenge is where you go from a few people working to a lot of people working, and a lot of people having to go to work. So we've been busy the last few days trying to figure out what our policy is for Liverpool Science Park and for Centre City that we now run as well. What are we going to do as we get buildings back up to full occupancy? And I think the more, Frank, that you can pool people's thoughts on that and pass that news out, the better, because it's unknown for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some challenges ahead, and I think some of this, Colin, will be suck it and see, won't it? We were talking about in calls that you and I have been involved in, staggered start times, staggered finishing times, getting businesses to buy into that, which I don't think is going to be an issue. But I was joking with my staff about the potential of returning to work, and I was sort of saying to them, well, get the train at 10 o'clock. And somebody said, yeah, but that is going to be the new peak hour. And I suppose that's the fact, isn't it? We do probably need to have a plan in place, at least as a city, where we say we're going to have some staggered times, and how that can be managed and the logistics of that are fairly challenging. But we're going to have to get there, I think, because we are moving into a new way of working. Listen, guys, I'm sure, like me, Thursday is the new Friday this week because we'll all be out with our bunting and Union Jacks tomorrow, won't we, as Liverpool does for VE Day. But I've got a quiz to get ready for it at 4 o'clock. I usually finish bottom of the league, so I've decided to become the quiz master this week, just to save myself any embarrassment. It's been great. This has been our first, I should have said at the start, Liverpool Property Forum. We'd anticipated that this was going to be a very social occasion with over 100 people at the restaurant, bar and grill. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in the not too distant future. But thanks to Project 4 for your sponsorship of today's event. Thanks to Colin for his, as always, interesting contribution to the conversation. Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.